Welcome back to another episode of the Borges Podcast.
Welcome in.
Yay.
Nice to have you guys here.
Thanks for joining us and for your patience with the last couple of episodes. They've been coming out a little bit later. Promise you though, we are here. We are recording.
Content's coming.
We have it ready. It's just we're busy and
we're entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and we don't have anyone else helping us edit and put this out there, so
it's all on us. Well, when I say us, I mean Brandy. So if you're upset about not seeing episodes, just DM Brandy.
Yeah, I'll take the heat.
All right, and I'll take the heat today with the topic of house hunting. We're going to be diving into our house hunt, and we're also going to be diving into kind of when it's time to move out of your current house and buy another one, and what goes into that, because recently this has been a hot topic in our neck of the woods, in our house.
Yes.
So you want to tell the folks how this has all come up?
Yeah, so the last episode we kind of teased that we are doing not a full renovation at our house, but somewhat of a glow up.
We're doing exterior paint.
Yep.
All the way throughout, which is really cool to see because our house is built in 1890, and so it has original redwood, and they are replacing a bunch of the stuff that has been rotted out. So we have old wood and new wood, and then we've done a full glow up on the exterior landscaping, which Brandy's actually wanted for a really long time.
It's so funny how these things happen. It's not until you're ready to sell your house that you gotta actually start to make your house look and feel the way that you actually wanted.
As today, have people been in the same shoes as mostly everyone across the market, where they have these 2 and 3% interest rates. And if they want to go buy their next dream home, they have to jump into either a 6 or 6.5, 7% interest rate.
Right.
And so a lot of people are in the same boat.
That is very interesting because our house is unique in that it was built in 1890, and it's
Victorian.
It's a Victorian. If there are any enthusiasts listening, you'll appreciate that. However, it's not exactly like our forever home, but it was always, like I said, a unique opportunity where there was potential for an ADU. Our property, I believe the zoning, you can fit up to 6 units.
Yeah. So if you're familiar with zoning, if you're not, that's okay. I'll try and make it make sense. Our zoning is considered residential 3, which if you live in a normal neighborhood where all you see is single family homes, you're probably in a residential 1 territory. Residential 2 will allow a couple units, and then residential 3 will allow many units. And we're on a main street, so that's why our zoning is that way. So back to Brandy's point, we were thinking to add units.
Right.
And that was always kind of the long-term thought, is this would be big vehicle long term for our investment purposes.
Yeah, and this would be our cash cow, right?
Yeah.
And so we were lucky enough to find ourselves in a position to make money on our previous townhome in West Covina. And this was at the height of COVID, so we locked in a really low rate on our current house.
Yeah, 2.3.
If you can believe that.
Pretty crazy.
And I already know that you guys are going to think I'm crazy. Why are we moving? We're going to get into all of that. But the idea was that we are going to build this ADU, and perhaps we would rent that out and live in the main house, or we would then rent both. We would build other units. So that mindset, though, I will say, limited us in the potential of actually it feeling like home. For me, I guess I'll speak for myself because I know we have different opinions on that.
No, this is true.
It is?
Yeah, because there'd be a lot of times where Brandy would be like, hey, why don't we, we had a side area where, in a perfect world, a unit would go, or a junior ADU would go on that side. She's like, why don't we design this for, what we want it to be? And it's kind of well, if we're going to move, then it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do that. So I think that's what yeah.
Yes, correct. So financially, it did limit us to not expanding the way that we want to and really adding our own personal touch. And we've kind of been I would say settled with the idea that we're going to be here for maybe an additional 2 to 3 years until we make the funds to actually build the ADU. But as life has it and entrepreneurs have it, things come up. It never really feels like there is like
The right time.
the right time to throw $100,000 into a project. And so fast forward, I think for me, post fires, it's brought up a lot of feelings of the importance of community, and that has kind of sparked something in me that I think has accelerated this. So I was talking to Justin about, hey, I know I've mentioned this in the past about moving, and you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm really feeling this call to finally make another home ours. And I'm really happy with our home that we have. And I feel like it's great. It's amazing. I guess there's a part of me that feels like we've outgrown it. And also there's a part of me that feels like we're in a different space. We're so busy with our life that the fact that we're on a busy main street just makes me feel even busier. I think we've gotten used to the noise and a lot of things, but I'm ready to kind of be in a more peaceful surrounding where we're not so urban. But I have enjoyed like being 5 minutes away from restaurants, and we don't have to think much about where we're going because we can just get in the car and get to where we need to go in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Super
So
central.
we're still looking to stay within like 10 miles, but from like kind of bird's eye view, for me, I am ready for that peaceful tranquility feeling.
Well, let's jump into this discussion a little bit more, because I know this is a discussion that's going down in many households, and it's either of my original perspective or Brandy's original perspective of like, I want to move or I want to sell, and then the spouse or is like, well, how do we leave this interest rate?
Yeah.
Because our house, I mean, if we wanted to rent our house right now, not being a homeowner and try to rent our house, it would probably cost around $6,500. Well, our mortgage is much less than that, which is incredible. But it's also this kind of handcuff mindset, right? Where it's like, well, that is so great, and I don't ever want to let go of that. That's where my head was at first.
Yeah.
And, but if I look back on it, on every single time that we've made a move, we've always kind of put ourselves in a more high pressure situation. And of course, being entrepreneurs and being like that, we do control our own income. The byproduct has always been, we make more money.
Right.
We perform to the situation that we put ourselves in.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's like with anything, people say, God doesn't give you a situation that you can't handle, right? I genuinely feel that whatever happens, it's the way that it is meant to happen and that we are going to find a way. Why don't we take our viewers through like the whole process, because it's been a few months now.
Okay.
So take it back from the beginning. I would say about 3 months ago, I brought this concept to Justin about moving, and I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know if we were going to be renting our house out or if we were going to sell it. I was just bringing this up and saying, hey, I feel like we've outgrown this home. I'm ready to move on, and I see just a different way of life for us and our family, and it's more so the lifestyle and the quality of life.
Yeah.
And for you, what was
for me, the way I process information is when I feel blindsided, there's like this immediate gut punch and more like, no, this can't happen. My initial reaction is very strong, and then I need time to digest. Do you have a point?
I have a direct quote. He said, "This is the last thing we need to be doing right now."
Is that what it was?
That's what it was. Yeah.
Pretty good. I think that standpoint is like, hey, like, we're in a great spot. We're building a business. Like, we don't need to take on more risk, is essentially, the mindset.
I knew that I was going to bring this up, but I was anxious about it because I could already like sort of hear him before he even said those words. I already knew what was coming. I just was like bracing myself, like, here we go.
Jump on the roller coaster, huh?
Yeah.
And so the way I process things is like, again, out of the gate, I come out hot, and then my mind is kind of like, well, like, what if we did? What would that look like? And so it was like, okay, I'm willing to entertain this, but the only way I'm willing to entertain this is if we hold on to the house and rent it out instead of selling it. And, obviously I'm in the business. And so I start crunching those numbers. And, I get with a couple other people in the business just to make sure I'm running them right. And like, okay, so there is an avenue where we can keep this.
Right. So we're exploring all of our options. You were saying you wanted me to go and drive to neighborhoods that I really want us to check out before getting you involved.
On the house hunting front, it was like, hey, if we're gonna do this, like, I don't want to get sucked into like sending me a bunch of links and then having me like get invested. Like, go look. If you like the property, then bring me in because it's gonna be too distracting for me.
Right.
And that wasn't from like a jerk standpoint. It was more like I can't afford to get distracted. I really need to make sure that our business is moving forward, and I don't want to be pulled in until I know you like it, because then we get all like, oh my God, this could be the one, and you go drive the neighborhood and we're like, why are we here?
And it's funny because this is our business, but we're all human, right? And we all process things differently.
Of course.
So I will say that during that same weekend that I brought this up, I looked on Redfin, and what you would think is like the perfect home was right there. And I was like, oh my gosh, we got to go look at this, and went to the open house. And you actually came along with me because I was going to take the kids, and we both were like, this feels right. This feels really, really good. And this is all at the beginning, right? Where it's been about 5 or so years that we've house hunted. Like, there's something different when you're doing it for yourself than when you're kind of helping other people guide it, because other people have other things that are important to them, right? So you're always looking at it through the lens of their eyes and what's important for them. So it's totally different when we're actually looking for ourselves, if you ever wondered what it's like for people in the business to be looking. And so this house that we went to go look at, it was super charming. It was like a Spanish revival. And because our house was built in 1890, like, we really do appreciate the charm of older homes. And this home was actually not as old as ours, but it was great, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the feng shui,
Which we're going to get into feng shui. Yeah.
was just everything about it. The lighting, just the foyer, like everything felt really, really right. But we were still so early in the process.
Very early.
We tried
Same weekend.
Yeah, and just to give you, an idea, it was like we went from, well, we'll see, and all of a sudden we're like trying to get all of our ducks in a row, like within a week, to put an offer on this place, and which we did.
And it's so funny because there were so many synchronicities with this house that it felt like, how can this not work?
Yeah.
It really felt like that. And so, as you can imagine, I was heavily invested and thought like, this is it. This is time.
And me on the other end, still being very logical, was like, there's a very good chance this doesn't happen.
Right.
Where Brandy was like, no, like all the signs point to yes.
Right.
And I was like, well, all the logical signs point to no. But hey, let's give it a shot.
Yeah. The thing about me is, once I have an idea of what I want, I am very persistent and determined. And so that was what it was. And I was like, this is amazing. This is great. I was meditating on it, manifesting it. And then for whatever reason, I genuinely feel like it just was not the right time. And that didn't end up working out. And so it was this roller coaster of like, we found the house and we know it's not the one for us. And then we're kind of like, okay, let's keep looking. Literally, that when we found out that one was not going to be for us, we started a search again. And that same weekend, another house popped up, and it felt even better, if that's even possible.
Yeah, it was great.
What I loved about the first go around with like this house that we did find, you start to learn the things that, like, well, what was it about that house that we really loved, right? Like, we didn't know exactly what we wanted, but that house really showed us what felt right and what we actually do want. So what are some things that you really enjoyed about that house that you realized, like,
Well,
I actually want something
I
like
think
this?
I've always known this just from touring houses with buyers and clients and open houses is like natural light is of the utmost importance to me. But one of the things that came to light, no pun intended, was that I want a view. If we're going to be stepping up and we're going to be spending more money, then I want to have a view.
Right. You
And
knew it from that house that you wanted a view?
I think that's where it clicked. And this house didn't have like a spectacular view. It was kind of more subtle, but it
Yeah.
was a view out of the front window, which I really appreciate because we have a really nice front window now.
Right.
So I'm definitely a sucker for a big front window, but natural light is the most essential for me to feel like this is a great home. It has to have a abundance of light in pretty much every room.
Yeah. And this one did.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's actually something that we have currently.
tons of light.
We have a lot of
It's going to
light.
be hard to get a brighter house than we have right now.
Yeah. I really love the foyer that kind of led you up this beautiful staircase. It really felt like when you walk in, you're being guided in, right? And the open house concept is nice, like in theory, but when you, I think, are like a young family, you have a dog who is almost as big as your 4-year-old kid, you kind of want some compartmentalization. I feel I'm realizing that as we've kind of toured multiple homes now. What would you say? You don't agree?
I like more open and flowing one room to the other, but I like the compartmentalization of potentially upstairs, downstairs rooms, but not so much. I like the living spaces to flow evenly.
Yeah. And
I think you do too. I think what you're saying right now is ours flow a little too easily.
yes, that is exactly what I'm
But
saying.
that problem is what a lot of people want.
Well, good, because I hope that they're going to want our
You can
house.
see it soon.
It's coming post Easter, guys.
Yes. But yeah, I think taking into consideration those things, like we just kind of went into it. It's funny because you just kind of jump into this very emotional state when you're house hunting, even for us, where you're just, I love it, I want it, and I'll do anything to get it.
Right.
But losing out on those two houses made us all the more serious about getting our house prepared because we had to make some creative offers where it's like, hey, we'll get our house on the market in 7 to 10 days. And that just wasn't realistic. And it probably wouldn't have been the best thing for us anyway.
So the other home that we made an offer on, I mentioned, felt even better than the first one we fell in love with. This is where there was like a beautiful view. You feel like you're being surrounded by nature. Even though you're only like 5 minutes from the city, you feel like you're in another world. And that's exactly what I loved, is that we could have this sanctuary where we come into the office and like we're doing our work and we're out showing properties or we're taking the kids to school, like whatever it is. But like once we get back home, like that is our safe place. And
Yeah.
like that's a time for us to disconnect. And it really felt that way. And the layout of this home was actually amazing because all the bedrooms were on the bottom, which for us makes sense because the kids' rooms need to be on the same floor as
Yeah.
us.
That's one thing definitely with kids we've noticed. And we're looking at predominantly 2-story homes because we're looking for a bigger home.
Right.
And a lot of them are like, the kids' rooms would be on a separate floor than us, and
Like
that's
2 stories down, which
yeah. Well,
totally doesn't make
that one for
sense.
sure doesn't. Like,
Yeah.
we'd have to get creative if it was one floor down. But we've noticed like the houses we really like, the kids are on the same floor as us.
Yeah. And I will say there was one house that we saw that had a great view, that had great design on the interior.
Great neighborhood.
But the living, like where you picture your kids and like you, it just, that part just didn't make sense. Like, so they're going to be 2 floors down or they're going to be on another floor. Like that just doesn't work for us.
Yeah.
And so we've learned that along the way. But after we made an offer on that second one, and it wasn't the right time because our house was not ready to just go on the market right away, we had to reevaluate, like, what the hell are we doing? This feels like, for me at least, it was an emotional roller coaster, just that high and like rejection, and
And she was my emotional roller coaster, so
I was.
yeah.
Hey, you felt that too, though.
A little bit, but it was more like I felt let down for you. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
anyways. So we thought this would be a super relevant topic again, because everyone, and I'm running into more and more people that are in this same boat that are talking about, hey, it's 2025. You know, we either refinanced in 2020 or we bought in 2020. We are ready to leave behind our smaller home and we've outgrown it, whether it's size wise or spiritually or mentally. We just want to move on to something else, but they feel held back by the payment change. And I guess what I would say to you, if you are in that same boat, is everyone's situation is unique and you have to look at all the financial factors involved and what's going to make the most sense for you, right? But I would start with the numbers. A lot of times it's easy to be emotional about it or feel like, you know, we can't do that because of this, but just start with the numbers and then you can kind of work your way back into it. And what I mean by that is, all right, if we sold this house today, down to the penny, what could we walk away with it from and roll into our new property?
Right.
And in the new property, what is the max comfortability as far as our mortgage goes that we'd want to jump into? So start there and then start to kind of look at places and get a sense for, does it make sense for us to do this?
Yeah, and I think it was a blessing for sure, blessing in disguise, that we didn't get it the first time that we fell in love with the house because we just would have been totally thrown in to the deep end. And this has allowed us to have time to process. And we could have processed it and been like, you know what, we're just not ready yet. But this time within the last 3 or so months has given us the space to really talk, think about, and decide this is actually what we want to do and we're ready for it. And so when we kind of came together to reevaluate, it was a matter of like, okay, we need to sell our home. That's just not something that we can be flexible on. Like, we need to do that in order to make this next move. Now, what does that look like? And why don't we walk everyone through kind of what that process has looked like for us?
Well, for us, you would think it would be easy for us to just like, well, let's go ahead and be the ones that are like doing all of the legwork to sell this place. But if we did that, I think an enormous amount of our focus would be lifted off of our clients and our business and our agents. And then, you know, everything else would suffer. So when we thought about this, we were thinking, you know what, instead of saving money on the commission, let's hire one of our agents who we think is extremely competent to come in and take care of, and as he puts it, hit the easy button on a lot of the things that, you know, would really take a ton of time and focus for us. And now we can have essentially meetings on a weekly basis to get updates on where everything's at, opposed to us being the one coordinating all of this.
Yeah, because we had a general sense of what we wanted to do to enhance the home. And it was great because when we had our teammate come out and meet us, we really treated it like a real sort of consultation where we started outside and we were looking at what can be improved on with the landscaping here, kind of like throwing out ideas, brainstorming. Like, I really enjoyed the collaborative nature of it. And it also has lifted the burden of, you got to make the right decision and knowing every single best decision for everything. Like, it's that part has been lifted because we know we have a solid partner that will help guide us and give us options. And ultimately it is our call, but we've enjoyed that. And the coordination of meeting with stagers, right? And we'll kind of go through that, but like, why don't we tell them a little bit about what we're doing on the landscape that I think just makes a really big difference, or has made a big difference so far.
Yeah, I think the thing that's made the biggest difference is gravel, bringing in, you know, a ton of gravel to accent our current landscaping. So we have like a desert landscape in the front, more drought resistant, drought tolerant. Really, it's a good looking front yard. I think if we had to do it over again, we would probably do it differently. But this gravel with bended board, has really livened up our curb appeal.
Yeah.
And that has also like ran along the whole side of our house where we have ligustrum and privacy hedges. And so recently too, they just put in some rosemary along with a couple others, just really like bordering and accenting our house.
Yeah.
And it's just been like a game changer.
Yeah, so much so that we were preparing for dinner and you brought in some rosemary
Yeah.
and added it to the steak, and you were like, this is the best steak ever.
So good. Yeah. So
I think that's another thing, actually. Something that I've said I wanted for a long time, actually, since our trip to Canada, like years ago, is having a medicinal garden and having like rosemary and lavender. So for me, I'm excited about incorporating that into the next place
yeah,
we're in.
for sure.
Just so you know, we have not touched the landscaping since we moved in.
We did some when
We
we moved in,
We did a few things, yeah, but
yeah, pretty much unchanged for the last 4 years. So
yes. Actually, our teammate interviewed with other landscapers, and so we were like, for every project that we're doing at the house, our teammate met with about like three to
yeah,
4 people, got bids, quotes,
and
and
this
then,
is extremely important.
yeah,
Like if you're not looking to hire someone like ourselves and pay for that service, which again, I am paying for that service because I know what burden it's going to take off of my plate. And if I can't do my job, then it's going to cost me way more money than I'm actually saving. And I say that very confidently. So you as a homeowner, I'm sorry, you probably shouldn't be making those decisions. And so, but if you are going to do it, or if you have an inexperienced person that's helping you, you really should get 3 to 5 quotes from each person just to get a baseline, because there are really some crooks out there that will say this landscaping is $15,000, whereas, we had quotes like that, but we got it done for 5.
yeah,
And beautifully so. And the same thing on, painting our house. We had literally a range from 70,000 down to 17,000. So,
yeah, it's crazy.
and so like it's a big range, right? And ultimately finding the right person that you want to work with, who you feel is both capable and has good pricing, is going to make the most sense. So,
And a quick note on the details, right? The small details that will make a difference. For me, we have some plants that haven't fully matured, that have struggled, and they haven't gotten a lot of water, they don't get enough sun. So I've had this like relationship with these plants. Are actually called bougainvilleas, and they're beautiful once they're like really grown.
if you're wondering what that is, if you're like on the highway and you see these amazing bright pink or
Red,
purple,
yeah.
that's bougainvillea.
Yeah, and so I've had this kind of relationship with them, like feeling discouraged. And so I was looking forward to not having those and having something else. And we ultimately decided that actually, if we put new plants, it's still going to take some time for them to fully mature. And then we don't really know. And what the landscapers did, they just, I believe, replaced and installed just a new drip system.
Yeah.
So
they weren't effectively being watered.
And we did not know that. And they've kept them really taken care of, trimmed. And just in the last month, I've already seen the bougainvilleas kind of like thriving a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm just happy that I took the recommendation of our teammate and like the professional of just kind of keeping those, fixing that, and not rushing to like what initially I wanted to do was just like rip those things out.
Yeah. And so to hit the to-do list of what we have coming up, we're going to be moving out all of our possessions. And same thing here. When we sold our last place, I effectively sent Brandy and the kids away to Northern California to just be like, hey, just get out of the way. I'm going to prep it. I learned
with our dog too. We went to his mom's.
Getting the dog out of the house. I will say I've learned that this is why I'm hiring someone this time. I took a ton of time out of my own to prep, and that sale went amazing, but it was not the highest and best use of my time. But fast forward to today, we're going to be removing pretty much the rest of our furniture outside of beds so that the stager, yes, we are getting our house staged, even though we're living there, can come in and really curate the space. And if you're ever like, should I stage, should I not? I will tell you that a good stager will probably 5x the money that you're going to pay for staging. So for instance, if the staging's costing you $5,000, then they'll probably get you at least $25,000 in return. So highly recommend staging. Don't be cheap. Don't think, oh, I'm going to save the money, because you're not. You're costing yourself money.
Yeah, and we're not attached to any of the furniture that we have, so we're totally good with like,
it's good furniture for us, but it's
Yeah.
probably not for everyone. So.
Right. And so we've been living without a dining room or a living room, sofa, or anything other than our countertop in the kitchen with 3 stools is how we've been having dinner for the past, gosh, has it been almost 3 weeks? Yeah. And I was just telling Justin earlier, like, all right, I'm starting to feel it. Like, I'm ready to like get this thing going.
Yeah. For sure.
And so thankfully we don't have that many jobs inside the house that need like major work, just some like handyman stuff. And we're going to be doing some shelving in our laundry room. But we are keeping the kids' beds, which is good. So like they're not being disturbed with where they sleep. We're not being disturbed where we sleep because we're keeping our bedroom. And
kids' rooms are easy, by the way. If you have it already curated really cute, then more than likely you just need to throw in like a rug or something a little more neutral. But most of the time people love to see kids' spaces because it's just really like relatable.
Yeah, and those, we're actually proud of the kids.
Yeah, we put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, those are cute. We initially had a timeline of probably hitting the market mid-March. But here we are. And so things do take time, right? Like you have an initial timeline, even though we have someone helping us as well. But it's been great because our teammate has been like reminding us of that timeline, and it's definitely gotten us like good pressure of like, oh shit, we got to take out all the furniture in the living room and put it in the office because our flooring was going to be done, which we actually got some flooring touched up and shined, but that was good pressure I feel like we needed.
100%.
Yeah. And so we'll be listing immediately post Easter, and we're excited.
Yeah. So we figured we'd break down what we're going through because we're talking about it, and all of a sudden I had people reaching out, and I'm like, a lot of people are going through this right now.
Yeah.
So we thought it would be helpful to kind of break it down from our perspective. If you are going through this, let us know. Happy to hear your thoughts. And again, like, there's zero pressure. Like, I hope everyone and our listeners and people that are viewing this know, like, I just want to be of service. So I've helped people to break down numbers. Even if we're not the ones helping you sell, like, it does not matter to me. I'm happy to help your situation. So
yeah, and follow along on our Instagram. It's on my personal page at brandy.borges.
At the Borges Podcast.
Yep. And watch on YouTube, comment, DM us.
And if you found this episode useful for yourself and you know someone going through the same process, send this over to them. We figure it'll be helpful.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
All right. Take care.